Let's talk about why it feels impossible to make art nowadays. In the past, it felt so much easier, and now things have gotten harder. At least that's been my experience. I want to discuss some of the external and internal factors that make art making more difficult. One thing that I've been struggling with a lot is that I feel like the world has become so much louder than it used to be. I feel like everything has become a distraction. Even food nowadays tastes so much better. Why does everything have sugar in it? Why is everything so tasty? Even just buying a snack at the grocery store. If I eat that snack, I'm going to finish the whole bag in a single sitting because it tastes so good. Everything has become so palatable. Even like media, everything's become so addicting to the point where it's become very difficult to sit down and draw, because drawing, although a lot of fun, tons of enjoyment in drawing, it does usually take a little bit of time to get into the mode of drawing. It usually takes a little bit of leaning into the drawing before you feel that type of joy, while all these other distractions, all this media, all this food is so much more dopamine rich up front, so it's hard to actually take the time to draw because you might as well just consume some more content or consume some more food. Everything has become so loud, and it's become very difficult, even for me, someone who does art for a living. For me, it's difficult to sit down and draw. For me, it's hard not to just like be on TikTok scrolling or eat a bunch of food and then feel sick after. Like, all these things have become so difficult, and I do think that that is the world actually changing. Now, I know a lot of you are going to make the argument that distractions have always been there. You can read philosophers struggling with the fact that they couldn't focus. Yes, that is true. Focus has always been a challenge for humanity. But I do think that now there's so much more money involved in distracting us, to the point where even the normal human has to fight against these forces that are so much stronger than they used to be. Yes, focusing has been hard in the past, but I do think that distractions are so much stronger than they used to be. The biggest enemy in the realm of distractions, you know it's coming, is phone addiction. And oh my God, I've struggled with phone addiction so much through my life. I feel like the past 12 years has just been phone addiction, trying to fight it, trying to figure out how to fix it. And it's such a struggle. But here are a couple of things that would help me a ton. Like these strategies do work if you try to implement them. They'll still be hard, but they do help. One is I don't text my friends. I try not to text at all, where the only time I want to text my friends is if we are organizing something. We'll send memes here and there, but we are not having a text conversation. Let's just stop doing that. Let's hang out in person. 10 minutes of in-person conversation beats hours of texting. The amount of information you actually exchange with texting is almost nothing. It is really not helpful, especially because you don't get tonality. You don't really get the essence of a person when you're texting. So just stop texting. Use texting to organize meetups, or just get on the phone. A phone conversation with a friend, so much more effective. Get on a voice chat with your boys or friends, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just stop texting. Texting is so horrible. It's the biggest distractor. For me, at least, it's something that I struggle with for years. And I realized that I actually don't need to text people back quickly. Now I try to wait at least an hour before I text someone back. And what will happen in that hour? I will forget that text is there. The notification I'll just wipe it away. And then guess what? The text wasn't important anyways. So it didn't matter that I didn't respond for a couple of days. Like, realistically speaking, if your friends have a problem that you don't want to be on your phone all the time, then just tell them to meet up in person. They shouldn't expect you to text all the time. Trust me, it's so much better without texting. Number two is I got rid of social media off my phone, but I keep it on my computer. Telling people to get off social media, obviously easy advice, but it's not effective. Everyone's social life is so integrated within social media. Totally understand it's hard to get it off it completely. So just keep it on your computer. Your phone is so accessible to the point where I feel like it's too readily available, especially if you're someone who wants to draw. But if you just keep it on your computer, it's so much easier not to check it all the time. At least for me, it's been that way, where I don't feel the need to constantly check things if they're on my computer. But on my phone, it just becomes this quick habit, especially because I carry it around with me, right? So try to get social media off your phone if you can. I know that's very hard. It's easy advice to give, but it's very difficult to follow. I do reinstall it every once in a while, and I have to teach myself again, like, no, I don't want this. Uninstall it again. I know it's a struggle. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's worth trying. The advice number 3 here is to make your phone screen black and white. You'll have to Google how to do that on your phone, but I have a quick shortcut where if I click the side button 3 times on my iPhone, it turns my screen black and white. And then the phone is not as interesting suddenly. So much of what is addicting about the phone is the color of it, which is kind of crazy, but that is how it works as well, especially for me. That's if there's no color, I'm not interested in looking at it. So those are some of the things that I've been using to beat my phone addiction. If you are someone who is working on this and you found certain strategies to work for you, put them in the comment sections, because I do want more advice here, because there are probably more interesting strategies that might work for me. So feel free to hand those out in the comment section. Another external factor that isn't spoken about enough is the cost of living crisis. Now, everything's gotten so much more expensive that I do think that people are under so much more pressure to make money. Now, why does this relate to making art? If you're constantly stressed about making money, you want distractions that are mindless. You want to scroll TikTok, you want to watch TV shows. It's hard to sit down and draw and be in silence and be with yourself if you're so stressed about just making enough to get by. And I know that some people want to pretend like things haven't gotten more expensive, that like, oh, it's just regular inflation, people just don't want to work hard enough. All of that stuff, not true. Cost of living has definitely gotten higher. Go look at the charts. It's undeniable. Things have gotten so much more expensive. Food has gotten more expensive. Living has gotten more expensive. And if you are under that much stress constantly, how are you possibly going to make space to draw? Right? Like it's just a reality that if you're someone who used to draw a lot, you probably had more space in your schedule. But now that it's full of like working harder, being stressed about things, it's so hard to sit down and focus on drawing. Like, how are you supposed to do those things when you are under that much stress? Now, that's not a reason to just quit drawing altogether. Obviously, we want to try, but let's address the fact that as financial stress increases, the less room you will have mentally and emotionally to dedicate to art. And I want that to be said. I want people to address this, because I do think that that's a big factor here. It's part of what's made the world more loud, right? The more stressed you are about living, just existing, just surviving. Those things, those factors are constantly at play. And that's something that I stress about a ton. It's something that makes me so stressed. It's a part of why I turn to food for comfort. Every time I think about money, I get stressed out and I go to my fridge. Like that is something that I experience a lot. And I assume that if you are someone who also struggles with financial stress, then it can be hard to sit down and draw. Let's address the fact that that is a factor. Let's not let it dominate everything. But as we address it, we can say like, okay, this is true. Every time I think about money, this financial stress is making me draw less. How can we turn that around? Let's figure out strategies to deal with it. Maybe keep a budgeting spreadsheet that we turn to, like, okay, actually we're doing fine, emotionally stressed, but actually on paper fine. Or like try to figure out different strategies that might work for you. Finance is so personal that I'm not really going to get into it here, but I wanted to address it because I do think it's a huge factor. I do think that so many of my friends have lost their hobbies because they're so stressed about money. Everything's becoming a side hustle because it's like, well, I need to make money. Like, what else am I supposed to spend my time doing, right? It's either I'm making money or I'm resting from the fact that I've spent all this energy trying to make money. And that's a huge factor in why I think hobbies are decreasing. I think that's a big part of why phone addiction is so prevalent. I do think that if people had more space in their schedules, it'd be easier. Obviously, this doesn't apply to everyone, but for some of you, this might be a big factor of why you don't make as much art. Try to figure out how you can change those feelings a little bit, or how you can address those feelings, and then make space for your art. One of the internal factors that we have to talk about here is that you're confronted with your deeper self every time you draw. So if you sit down to draw, you are confronted with all aspects of who you are, and that is kind of challenging. It's part of what makes art exciting, but it's also challenging in ways. It's an adventure to like go into who you are and to express yourself, but that can also be a bit jarring. It can be challenging. It can really put things in your face that you aren't ready to see yet. And I think that is a big part of why people start to turn away from art as life gets more challenging. As you get older, it can be hard to like come back to art because you're confronted with who you truly are deep inside, and all your interests, all your loves, all the things that you struggle with, they will all show up in the art, especially the more honest you are. And I do think that that makes it harder to make art, but it's also why we should lead it. It's why we should like take the time to like draw just a little bit, right? You don't have to draw for hours a day. Draw 20 minutes a week. This week, just try to do a 20-minute drawing session. Put 20 minutes on the timer, turn your phone down so that we don't lean into that phone addiction. Let's just put away our phone for 20 minutes and lean into that discomfort, because it is a little bit challenging. Maybe you're not used to doing it, but let's get to drawing. We love it. You're only watching my channel because there's a part of you, the creative self, that wants to get out. So let's create room for that. But that is also, that challenge of that is part of why it's become harder to draw. As you're being confronted with who you are, you're also being confronted by your expectations. And if you are a perfectionist, those feelings will come out like, oh, I wish my art was better, this and that. Those voices will come out. And if you are someone who struggles with perfectionism, I have a free lesson, a free talk down below about perfectionism and intuitive drawing that I took out of my mindful drawing course and set it as a free preview for you so that you can check it out. That talk, I go into why intuitive drawing can help you release some of that like expectation and just surrender control to this creative force that's within you. So if you're interested in that, check the link below. It's absolutely free. It's a small talk. I do think that that's very helpful to people, so check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.